Welcome everyone to this episode of Palmetto Guardian. Today we will be speaking with Lisa Mustard with the South Carolina National Guard Behavioral Health Department. We'll also be speaking about Father's Day and also some other topics that you'll just have to stay tuned and listen to. Welcome everyone, I'm Specialist Chelsea Baker.
And I'm Specialist David Erskine.
So, like last episode, we're going to start out with some shout-outs because we have a lot going on this month. So, on the 14th is the going to be Flag Day.
Flag Day, yep. It's a big day, actually.
Yeah.
People don't realize it.
No.
But
it's a holiday that's, since it's not recognized, I feel like it gets kind of missed.
Yeah, it does. But it's got a long heritage. It's not something that they just came up with because they were bored and let's have a Flag Day.
Yeah.
It dates, way back, Betsy Ross and that whole time frame of the creation of the flag and the whole 9 yards. It's a heritage holiday is really what it is. And I think people forget that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So we like to give a shout out for that. So hopefully people recognize it.
Yeah, take notice, right? Hang your flags up. Fly them on your trucks. That's what we do in the South.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Also this month we have the Quartermaster's birthdays on the 16th as well as the Corps of the Engineers. So happy birthday to...
Happy birthday.
And then also on the 16th is Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, you have any exciting plans with your family on Father's Day or any
Hopefully they'll just leave me alone. Then it'll be
you
a good...
don't mean that.
No, I do mean that. It'll be a good fun. It's my day, I plan to sit on the couch and eat bonbons and watch bad football or...
Football hasn't even started yet.
Well, the preseason stuff's already started, ESPN's covering all the predictions and all that, and who's going where and who's going to get traded, what records are going to be broke this year. So, I might take Father's Day, just sit and eat bonbons and catch up on some preseason stat stuff for football.
Was there anything that you requested?
No, you know what? I'm pretty, in all honesty, all joking aside, I'm pretty chill on Father's Day. I like just kind of hanging out in the house with everybody. I like to keep it a low key day. Hang out, maybe do a little bit of grilling or something like that. Nothing. I guess too over the top, and get out and try to go eat dinner somewhere or anything like that. Just kind of hang out with the family. That's kind of like film and family.
Yeah.
That's a family.
Oh,
But
so you're filming the family?
I'm filming the family. But no, just the family, and maybe have like a movie day or whatever. Throw on a marathon of. Whatever, some bad sci-fi, so I can hear my wife complain at me that I've seen this movie 3,000 times and why am I watching it again? And really the only reason I'm watching it anymore is just to hear her say
to aggravate her
that I've watched it 3,000.
And since it's your day, you can do whatever
and I
you
can
want.
I'm king of the castle for a day, full advantage of it. It's all me, maybe. Yeah. So yeah. That's how we go. Obviously. Give my dad a call, my stepdad, too. Sometimes people forget that, Father's Day's for stepdads too. Give my stepdad a call or send him a text and have like a 3-second conversation with him because that's how our conversations go. Hi, what you need? Nothing. All right.
Okay, good.
Happy Father's Day. All right. Talk to you later. Outstanding. All right. So,
Isn't it funny? Like, do you have those relatives where when you call, like, it's not that you dread it, but it's like you got to map out a day to talk to them because you know that they're just going to go on. And then there's other relatives that you can just call and you literally talk for 5 minutes and you've caught up on everything.
That's every day.
Every day.
Every day. If it was up to my mother, I would stay on the phone with her from the time I got off of work until the time I went to bed at night. Matter of fact, if I would just move back in the house with her, I think she would be 100% okay.
Because she could just talk to you.
She just talks to me about stuff.
Well, that wouldn't work out with you and your whole gaming and everything.
That's right. No, I am the opposite person in that situation. I can have a conversation, say 3 words, and be done on the phone. And my wife gets mad at me. She goes, "You're saying all right a lot." I'm like, "I'm trying to get off the phone with you nicely."
It's a cue.
You're like, you know what the all rights mean. I've said 6 of them in a row, and you're still talking to me about something, and I just want to get off the phone. Yeah, I'm not a big phone talker person.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell by this podcast that I don't
No,
really
you talk a lot.
I talk a lot on the podcast, but a phone call, no, not so much. Yeah, I my way through conversations. I'm that person.
But do you actually listen? That's the question.
I listen enough in case I get busted and go, "What did I just say?" And I go, I can muster enough of it back and be like, and then, "Oh, okay, all right, you're listening."
And really, you weren't.
I wasn't really paying attention. I was making notes just enough that in case I got questioned, I would have something to say.
I wish I had that skill. I have a terrible memory. I couldn't sit there and just plug things into my brain and then spit them out later. Like, I would fail ethically.
I use keyword association.
Oh,
And
okay.
like they said something about work. Yeah, you were talking about work and how bad it was. Because I just assumed that's what people were talking to you.
And it's 50-50 shot at that point.
And then they go, "No, I didn't. I was telling you I got a raise today." "Oh, yeah, congratulations. That's awesome. I'm glad you got a raise." Right? I mean, what do you do with it?
Oh, man.
No. You mentioned I am a gamer. I'm an old man gamer. It's rough.
I never got into it.
I did. I got into it when I was younger, and
Yeah.
I competed back in the day in tournaments and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Who I really blame for it?
Who?
I blame my aunt.
Okay, what did your aunt
My aunt passed away several years ago. She was awesome, super smart lady, and she taught herself computers.
Oh, wow.
She actually worked. She was a hairdresser.
Oh.
She had the backyard hairdressing spot, right? Like the true Southern, like
Yeah.
go back to the garage that's been converted type thing. Awesome lady though, super smart, and she taught herself computers. She actually worked for West Columbia Police Department.
Oh, wow.
And no formal training. She taught herself. Anyway, she gave me my first Commodore 64 when I was young.
That's way before my time. I don't even know what that is.
Young. Us old folks out there, we know what the 64 is. Us old gamers, what we call graybeards, as it is in the gaming world. And I fell in love with computers, and Pong was one of the first things I played, and then I got Ataris, and I remember playing Jungle Hunt, and me and my cousin played, and it just progressed, over the years, and it's kind of weird. I got to watch gaming go from something that was, and for people who are not watching on YouTube, I'm doing the air quotes right now, it was a nerd thing, to it's super mainstream, and there are esports out there now, and it's big companies are involved in sponsoring these teams and stuff. As a matter of fact, E3, all my gamer folks, and as I said, E3 knew exactly what I was talking about. For those who don't, E3 is like a big expo of all the upcoming games. All the big gaming companies come out and they tease their upcoming games and trailers, and so that's been going on. And I've been all over that for the last week or so, tracking it on YouTube and geeking out over the games coming soon. And it's just awesome. It's awesome. And that was a little bit of tangent. But yeah, gaming. What makes it relevant?
What?
To the military, though, and this is something we've noticed, and we actually covered a story on it not too long ago with some of the folks using robots and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And the younger generation of folks, a lot of them have grown up, operating computers, gaming, using joysticks and controls, and a lot of our stuff are going to these, these drone type stuff, Air Force, Army, bomb squads, obviously, and it's kind of an untapped resource out there for the military, and it's hard for older folks. And when I say older folks, that includes, my age group and stuff. Both my sons are in robotics. That just didn't exist when I was in school, and I was listening to them have a conversation. They understood servos and all this type of stuff. So there's this weird untapped resource out there for the military, and we're starting to see it come in. And I think some of the jobs that the military has, Guard, Army, Air Reserve, kind of across the board, has a lot of these tech jobs.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I don't think I could manage in the tech world just because of the terminology and all the stuff that goes into it, and my brain would probably just explode with all the information. So, I mean, I can only imagine for other people that don't have an understanding of it either.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity for these kids that and young adults that want to do these types of things, and a little bit of a stigma about the military that we're just tanks and
Yeah.
rifles and
Know how to
medics.
shoot
Yeah,
and all that.
but I mean there really are some next level tech related jobs. I mean you got cyber, you got drone stuff. You got, our engineering fields, as we mentioned, the engineering corps earlier. Those are highly technical jobs in that area. Some of it's, heavy construction and stuff like that in the engineering. But I'm telling you, if you've never operated heavy machinery, that junk's hard. Like, that's not just, I'm going to jump in this, road scraper and run it down the road and have a clue what I'm doing. No, that's not how it works. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's science and cyber and all that in the military nowadays, and it's a good opportunity for younger folks and even older folks out there that want to get involved in it.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, the world is not just evolving, but the military is evolving, and people are trying to learn how to transition and do things differently. And whenever you've gone so long doing it this way, and then you have people coming in saying we should do it this way, and things don't always mesh together. So, I mean, with time comes to evolve.
Yeah. Even our career field's a good example of that.
Oh my gosh,
oh my
yes.
Lord.
Everything changes all the, like, on a day-to-day basis, things are changing.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen more change in public affairs, and when I say public affairs, I'm talking about more of the technical aspect of it, but even just the bare bones basics of the job. 10 years ago, social media was big, but now social media is everything.
Yeah. If you don't have social media presence, I mean,
and you have to learn and adapt. That's a whole different writing style. It's a whole different style of shooting videos, of doing photos. Not only, just the basic format of our job, moving away from, print, writing stuff for print and things like that, or just doing basic B-roll, what we call B-roll, stuff that you'd see on like news stations and stuff like that. But all that's changed, and along with all that, all the technology's changed. I mean, in my lifetime right now, I've seen it go from 35 millimeter film to, crop sensor digital DSLR cameras to full frame DSLR cameras to crop sensor mirrorless cameras to full frame mirrorless cameras. And I mean, I really, I haven't been around too terribly long. I mean, a little while, but I mean, that's a lot of change and a lot of learning curve,
in a short amount of time too.
I mean, every day me and you are having to look at something different. Something's changed. The cameras are changing. Just in the last few years, we've gone from shooting 720 in video to 1080 to 2K to 4K, and now 6 and 8K are on the horizon, and we're doing downsampling. And for people who are, not video and photo geeks, but it changes the dynamics of how we do the job and the quality of, video.
Products, yep.
And then stuff like this. 10 years ago, we would have never thought about sitting down and doing a podcast.
No.
I mean, we kind of did. We gave an attempt at it. Wasn't very good.
Round two.
Round
Make
two,
an improvement.
much better. But
Almost to your 1.3 million views.
1 point, we're rounding up. I'm rounding
From
up.
96.
I'm rounding up from 96 views to 1.2 million. So we need 100 more thousand to get to where I want. But yeah, I mean, it's changed. All of it's changing.
Going from, our parents growing up and grandparents listening to the radio, and now the radio is still big, but it's kind of becoming obsolete. Like, everything is visual, YouTube, and all the different social media platforms, and it's crazy how things are changing. But also in a way, we're kind of going back in history because we're using the same tools, we're just making them and better and finding new ways to use them.
Yeah, I mean, we're improving. I mean, even for the enlisted side with public affairs, I mean, our MOS just changed recently. That there's no more photographer and videographer. We've been merged into one career field. So I mean, even with that, and I think that's happened. It's not just us. I mean,
Across the board.
there's other career fields and things like that's happened to as the tech gets interjected into the military. We've got to spin up an update. I mean, I've seen several just new MOSs pop up, in the last 5 or 6 years. Everything from more computer related stuff. There was, I mean, a whole cyber world was stood up, with the defenders and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. I mean, military's constantly adapting. Wow, we went from video games to cyber. Look at that. That was an awesome jump. That was a professional.
You never know what's going to come out of this conversation.
No. But, and once again, back to the game things. We're using simulators for training.
Yeah.
There was the EST.
The rollovers
and the laser shot system and all that for people if y'all haven't used those yet, those are to help get you prepared to go for qualification, firing qualification. I mean, it's a big video game.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. And it's cool because it's exactly like a video game. Like when I was at MP, we would go in and there would be simulations for different scenarios. So like a domestic violence, and you would have to react, and then depending on how you reacted was the outcome, and then you would have to justify why you did this or that, and they would explain to you that you should have did this instead. Or it's a teaching tool. It's really beneficial because you can sit in a classroom and watch a presentation, and you can have somebody read you from the book, and you do it this way, and this is what you do if this happens. But until you're in a real life scenario, you really don't know how you're going to react and on the fly and all that kind of stuff. So technology has just come such a long way in helping us with our training. Yeah,
and that's good. It makes it more efficient. It makes it more realistic.
Exactly.
Makes you better prepared for your job. Falls under our, being ready.
Always ready.
Always ready, always there. Which is good. I mean, it's good. It's good to see that, the military is incorporating those type of things and moving forward. And it's nice to see that the younger generation, have job options that they're familiar with to come in the military so that we can, like I said, tap into that resource, which is always good. Any other shout outs we got over there? Or did we hit all the shout outs?
No, we hit all the shout outs.
Oh, okay. We hit all that. I went way back in the conversation. I felt like there was another one somewhere. Father's Day was obviously the last one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on this month.
Yes.
So it's a busy month.
Summer's always busy, and so.
We had the safety stuff. We had annual training.
Yeah, the safety event, they had a pretty good turnout.
Yeah.
It was a little bit different than last year, but they still had a lot of the same resources, a lot of good giveaways. So I hope everybody was able to get out and experience that. I was talking to John at the museum, and he said that they had over 3,000 people at the DDay event. So that's
that was huge. That was huge, yeah.
Especially with the weather, because he said it held out until after the event, which was awesome. Because
I even saw some of the other organizations around Columbia sending out posts from the event on their Facebook sites and stuff like that. So that was really nice. That was really nice, and I'm glad they had a good turnout. I saw some of the pictures. I wasn't able to make it up here that day, but I was elsewhere in the state.
You were covering some pretty cool stuff.
I was covering a tactical convoy with the 151st ARB. Super good group of guys while I was out there, and girls. And I tell you what, like, they were moving some equipment and stuff. Like I've done a couple convoys in my career, covered, but not a whole lot. So I'm not overly familiar with them, and went out there, and I mean, they were obviously out there early in the morning. And they'd had all their vehicles loaded and ready to go. And I don't know, it was probably, just off the top of my head, it looked like there was probably about 20 or so vehicles out there. And I mean, they were running, they were moving. Yeah. I mean, these folks were working hard out there with that. And then It was actually really fun for me because I haven't. The couple times I have been involved in covering convoys, usually it was we were just at one spot and we kind of caught them coming in and then that was it, or leaving out. But I was there and was able to move with them and get up ahead of them and get some really, what I thought was some really cool shots of the vehicles maneuvering through the Columbia area and things of that nature. And so I'm glad they were able to have me out for it. I'd like to go do it again. It's kind of funny when you go do things like that as a videographer or whatnot, you go and you do it, and then you realize after you get done, you're like, oh,
I should have got this
oh,
shot.
I could have got this shot, man. This would have looked so cool. And that's what, that's a part I like about our job. I know we're talking a lot about our job day, but it's part of what I really like about our job is I like going out and being able to cover these units while they're working and doing their job. And I like to be able to produce something that when they watch it, they're like, yeah, we look tough, we look,
I mean, it's some of our units and some of the stuff we cover, it's hard to take and make it look interesting because, I mean, a convoy, they're just driving down the road. So what elements can I use and what can I shoot to make this interesting for people to watch? Like, I mean, we've come across it time and time again, so.
Right, and those guys they're working hard at it, and they're having fun at it, and they obviously like doing it. And so, I have to go out there, and I need to give them my best when I go out there. And anything less than that is I'm shorting them. I'm not shorting me, and that's not fair to them. They're putting their time and effort, and they're coming in, for drill weekends like we all do. And so when I go out there, I need to try to give them everything I got so that, I want them to be proud of what I produced for them, not because I produced it, but because it's their jobs. I want them to be able to go home and show it to their wife or their kids or their girlfriend, boyfriend, sister, aunt, whoever, and say, hey, this is what I do on the weekend, and it be something that they want to, show off. And I think that helps, that helps build the community, and it helps build our family here in the Guard. And it helps get our story out there of what we do and why we do it. And, it means a lot. We don't think about it all the time, but it means a lot to soldiers to be able to go home and show their families, hey, this is what I did this weekend, and it helps their families understand what they're doing. So I next time I do it, I do have a couple, I got a couple shots I need to work in. It was afterwards like, this was too easy. I should have done it, and I didn't. So,
yeah. You live and you learn.
You live and you learn.
That's why it's nice that we have you. Well, I mean, everybody pretty much. Not that they do the same training, but they might improve it, find ways to better it. So, I mean, there's always those opportunities for us to get back out and try again.
Yeah.
See what we can do the next time.
Yeah, for sure. It's always worth going to give it a look, see what we can do better next time.
Yeah. So today we're going to have Lisa Mustard with the South Carolina National Guard Behavioral Health Department. She's going to talk to us a little bit about their department and what they do and their resources to help us.
Yeah, for soldiers, airmen,
family
members, military members that aren't even necessarily part of the South Carolina National Guard. I mean, they're an all-encompassing service to help military members and their families.
So today we have Lisa Mustard with the South Carolina National Guard Behavioral Health Department.
Awesome.
So can you explain to us a little bit about what that means? Exactly?
Sure, yeah. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lisa Mustard. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've worked for the Guard, about 9 years now. And I'll kind of take it back just a little bit to give you the history of how our program has evolved over the years. But what we do now pretty much is we do solution-focused brief therapy. And what that means is if a soldier or family member is having a hard time coping with life or, family issues or relationship issues, just needs somebody to kind of give them some coping skills, stress management, anger management. We come in as a therapist, and we give 5 to 7 to 10 to 12, sessions, depending on the soldier, because you can't really cookie cut and say it's going to be 5 sessions for you or it's going to be 7. So we really meet the soldiers where they're at in terms of what's going on. And if we are in meeting with them, kind of figure out that there's more going on. Like if I'm sitting with you and I'm like, we're talking about marriage and family issues, but all of a sudden you're telling me more about symptoms that sound like PTSD or sound like, major depression, then I'm going to kind of assess that for a little bit more. And then I'm going to help you get that higher level of care, because our role isn't so much to do long-term treatment. It's more about the short-term solution-focused, hey, something's going on, let's kind of, kick it around, dissect it, and figure out what it is that you really need to move forward and live your best life. And we have counselors now all over the state. We have in each territory or each service member and family care territory, we have sometimes, it's one of those things, it's a mouthful to get out, but within each region, we have some type of licensed clinical therapist. So I'm a marriage and family therapist by license. We have some social workers. We have licensed professional counselors. And I believe that's everybody's license. I just want to make sure I cover everybody. The cool thing is that every therapist that we have has to have at least 5 to 7 years of clinical experience under their belt before we will bring them onto the team, because we recognize that we deal with a variety of issues at a variety of stages of life, and we really want our therapists to really have that seasoned and experienced caseload that they come and work here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's kind of a nutshell what we do. And we also pretty much there's a number of ways you can find us. So most come in, well, not most, I shouldn't say that. As we have evolved over the years, we have included an 800 number that you can talk to a therapist, talk to one of the behavioral health specialists. And how that works is, you call the 800 number, you're prompted by my voice to leave, it's actually me, that's me on the voicemail, to leave a message, and one of us will call you back within 5 to 10 minutes. I think our average return of call rate is somewhere between we're pretty quick. The only time it goes over 10 or 15 minutes is if we're having technical issues that we can't account for. But even then, we have a backup plan as to how to help people. So one of us will call you back depending on whose call. You can call 24/7, 365. We've had calls Christmas Eve. We've had calls on Thanksgiving Day. And because a lot of the times, when you're with your family and you're all together and you haven't seen them in a while, things can get kind of stressful for people, and they just need somebody to talk to. So you can reach us anytime. And that number, I'll just say it so people have it, is 800-681-2558. And anybody can call it. Anybody can call. It can be, National Guard, Reserve, active duty. I've had calls from as far away as Massachusetts from a mother her son was at basic training at Fort Jackson through the Massachusetts National Guard. So I've had all kinds of calls over the years, and it's just been really interesting, some of the stuff that we have to, kind of follow up on. But every day is different. Every case is unique. Every couple that is in the military is different. So that's one way you can always reach us. You can also go through your, when you're at drill. Usually we have one of our behavioral health specialists. If they're not at your drill, they're in the region at another drill at another location, and they can come to you on site if you really want to talk to somebody. And if you're not sure how to even do that, you can still call the 800 number and say, hey, I'm drilling at the Hemingway Armory. I'd love to talk to somebody. And it might be somebody in Columbia who is answering the 800 number, but we're going to say, hey, that's going to be Rudy, and we'll call Rudy and get him to call you, that kind of thing. And a lot of people wonder about confidentiality, and all I can say is, when you call in that number, the only people who hear you and your number are the other therapists. Nobody else hears that. So the only time we ever have to break confidentiality is if a soldier says to us they're going to hurt themselves or somebody else, or there's child abuse, child neglect, or elder abuse. And so when people hear that, they'll say, well, I have had thoughts of hurting myself. That does not mean I'm going to hang up the phone on you and go, oh, sorry, too bad, too late, and call your commander. That means I'm going to have a conversation with you about let's really flesh that out and tell me a little bit more about, those thoughts and how often you have them. So I'm really going to do a full-on assessment before I do anything and call anybody, because sometimes people just, when they have thoughts of hurting themselves, it's like sometimes they just are having a really hard moment and they don't know how to cope and they just need to talk it out. So I don't want people to think like if you call and say you want to hurt yourself, that's an immediate call to, General Jones or, General McCarty.
No, you definitely don't want that.
Yeah.
Soldiers and airmen, they get a little antsy around that. Oh,
tell me about it. Tell me about it.
I think that's kind of too why people are too hesitant to get help, because they think it's going to affect them in their career and everything. So to have you explain that, I mean, hopefully that'll help people get the help they need.
Yeah, and something that's really cool about our program that a lot of people don't know is we're all civilians. Everybody is a civilian. So if you talk to us in confidentiality, like I said, the only time we break that is if you say you're going to hurt somebody else. But that doesn't mean that you tell me that you're dealing with some depressive symptoms, that I'm going to call the behavioral health officer and you're going to go on a profile. So it's not like an automatic, any of that. Now, if I'm talking with you and you're telling me all this stuff and I'm learning that there's a lot going on in your life, and really right now, is it the best time for you to be on drill because there's just a lot. And, then I'm going to say, maybe we should talk to the behavioral health officer together and kind of go to him and say, look, this is what's going on with Specialist Baker. Let's just have a conversation. It doesn't mean it happens. It means you're going to get assessed and you're going to get that care that you need. And people don't know that until they're in our system. And I say system of a helping system. I know they assume like that means they're going to get a profile, and then they're not going to do this, and then they can't go to schools, and then they can't get promoted, and it's so rare that happens. I mean, it does happen, but it's when that soldier is talking with us, they're at a point where they know that they need to kind of get more help, and it's time for them to maybe go on profile, because it is a bad thing, bad thing as in it's just hard for them to cope, and it's best,
I've had a lot of. Prior to me being in public affairs, I was medical way back in the day. But I've had a lot of friends coming through my military career that they are suffering with some type of behavioral health or psychological health issue, and there's just such a stigma in the military around it. Whether it's sometimes it even goes more basic than being worried about promotions or going to schools. A lot of times it's just I'm not soldier enough or I'm not airman enough. And that's on both sides. Females, males. It's not just like it's a macho thing. I've met both sides of it, and I think y'all's program is a good, stopgap measure, for lack of better terms. It gives it a safe place to go where you don't have to go immediately talk to the doctor. You don't have to go talk to the commander. You have this opportunity to get it out and at least bounce it off of somebody to see, is this a problem? Is it not a problem? I've had friends that, as soon as they were able to talk to somebody about it, boom, stuff started getting fixed left and right. And so that's kind of where y'all sit in the hierarchy of things, I guess.
Yeah, in the hierarchy of, tell me more about.
As far as y'all are that point where soldiers and airmen and even family members can go to. It's a safe place to start the process and find out if you do need to progress.
Exactly. That's a great way of putting it, is just we are that place where you could come and just say, this is what's going on, tell me what you think, tell me what I need to do. And sometimes we don't know we don't know what you should do, but because there's a lot of factors going on. So it might take not just one session, but it's going to take 3 to 5 to 7 sessions. And so that's why I say we're short term and we are, solution focused. And I think that's great for soldiers because, most soldiers I know are problem solvers. They're given a task and they have to fulfill it. And then, so they want to know, what's the plan? What's my mission here, Lisa? What do I have to do? Now, I will say it's funny over the years where I've had soldiers that, I think it just takes time and it takes trust. And I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy about this job is that I've been around long enough that I see soldiers where they start and then they come full circle and they grow and they thrive, where, a couple years ago they were in a bad place or they were really struggling. And that could be on so many different areas. And then they come full circle with that. And it's so exciting to see people who are thriving in their lives, not just surviving. And I kind of want to touch on what you said about the idea of stigma and a little bit of, it takes courage to reach out. And I don't know about you guys, but one of the things I had to learn really quick when I first started working, and when I came into the Guard, my job was called MFLAC, and that stood for Military and Family Life Consultant. And I remember when I first started, I was like, what does that mean? What do I do? And the two MFLACs that had been here, they're like, well, just follow us and follow us around, and you'll get a gist, you'll understand. And I was in awe of what they were doing, because like 1 minute they were at a yellow ribbon event and they were doing, a presentation on coping with deployment. And then the next minute they're out in the hallway and they're talking to a spouse whose child is acting out because dad is about to deploy. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. These people are just walking around and talking, but the only reason I could figure this out, that these folks were coming to them, was because leadership trusted them, which meant that the junior leaders trusted them, which meant that the NCOs trusted them. And so I was like, how come they come to you? They're like, oh, give it 3 to 6 months and this is going to be you. Like, you will be, it just takes time for them to know, like, and trust you. Mm-hmm. And I will say that that's probably the biggest factors for soldiers, anybody really, and who decides to talk to a counselor, is you have to feel heard. You have to feel like you trust the person you're talking to, and you have to have that hope. And so my point being, when I first started, I was like, oh, I can do this. Like, I'll just walk around and talk to people. But they looked at me like, well, who is, I had to be introduced by the current MFLACs, and I had to be introduced by leadership, and they had to kind of get to know me. But that's the culture around here. And what I didn't know was that, and I learned really quickly, is that in the military, and you guys are laughing at me, but you guys are taught not to have vulnerability. Like, you can't let any vulnerability creep in, or else that's your mission.
Right.
Your mission is just like, you could totally, something bad could happen.
Right, you fail your mission.
Right. But not the cool thing. So the crazy part about that is in a therapeutic relationship or in a counseling relationship, soldiers don't understand that it's okay to be vulnerable, because that's a sign of courage. So here you are, on one hand, learning how not to be vulnerable in your training, and then here I am over here asking you to be vulnerable and tell me what's really going on, because when we're vulnerable, that's where growth can happen. But we're afraid, because then it's like this crazy, so I had to learn how to meet the soldier where they're at and to really understand them in their day-to-day, and then nicely, kindly nudge them to be a little more vulnerable with what was really going on, and that takes time.
Not that we're difficult to do that
never,
work at all.
Never difficult.
We make that change immediately.
No, it's like that. Seriously,
overnight.
One session, you're fine. Like, you're good.
Well, we adapt to that fast.
I'll tell you though, right? No. No, not at all.
Not
by
at
any
all.
means.
Not
Yeah.
at all. No.
But it's been really fascinating to really understand vulnerability. And so I'm very patient. I'm a lot more patient now than I was when I first started. And I have soldiers that are telling me, I know I need to go to the VA, and they don't. And I'm like, I just say, well, I can't make you go. You know you need to go. And
It's like having 10,000 kids.
Sometimes, yeah. And these are grown men, like, who know that if it was their kid, they would be like, you need to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's holding you back?
Right.
But it's just, I think so many people, they know they need to go, and they're fearful of what they're going to learn about themselves, because they know that there's stuff there, and it's scary,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand that.
And then it's the what if you can't fix it.
Right.
That makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Am I permanently like this?
Yeah.
Am I stuck type
Yeah.
thing? And that's a big hurdle to jump
Sure.
sometimes,
Yeah.
Because, there is always a possibility that, wherever you're at today is your new baseline.
Sure.
And then there comes the whole,
Yeah.
learning how to, as you said, living your best life at your, your current
Yeah.
state. And
Right.
that's a scary
Sure.
thing to have in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. And there were a lot of soldiers who would be nodding their head right now and say yes. I think sometimes though, and I'm just kind of like going off the cuff here, but when you say that to me, what that reminds me of is, baseline. This is baseline today. But baseline, can you see? Like, baseline, this is baseline, and sometimes baseline you're going to dip, and then sometimes you're going to hit it, and then some days you're going to be up.
Yeah.
But that's life. Like,
Right.
that's just life. And so the way I see it is, like, if you're here baseline, but your normal was more up here, then what do we need to do to kind of help you get back up here? Because baseline is just a measure of where you are today. Doesn't mean that you have to be there forever. I truly believe that, like in my own self. Like, I have days where this is baseline and I'm like, ugh, you know, and I'm just like tapping it up here. I'm like, what do I need to do daily to kind of be, you know, living on a 9 versus a 6? And that's kind of like life coaching. That's kind of like, you know, motivational stuff, but behavior change. But there's hope for everybody. I mean, I'm convinced. Anybody, you know, if you want your life to be different, if you want to grow, if you want to change, if you want your marriage to be better, you want to be a better parent, like you can always do those things. You just have to be open to trying new things. Yeah. Because my clinical supervisor used to always say, and let me get this right, he would say, different isn't always better, but better is usually different. And what that means is you're going to have to try a lot of different things before you get to your better. Mm-hmm. And if you find yourself feeling better, then chances are from that baseline, you're now doing things differently. Right. But what works for you may not work for me. Yeah. So it's really about just joining with that soldier or airman and like, okay, what do you want your better to be? You know, how do you define that? Right. Because how I define it's going to be different how you define it, and then helping you get there. So, yeah, I love this. I mean, I love what I do. It's pretty incredible. I get this job.
I think one thing I really like about y'all's shop up there is you know, you can go to the VA or whatever, and you can go talk to behavioral health folks up there, and usually you go talk to them, and you know, they got to wait and get a referral out because what your issues are might not be what you think your issues are. Oh, yeah. A lot of times, right? But with the way y'all are set up with service member family care and all that right there, I mean, y'all have resiliency folks on staff. You have employment people. You have fitness folks all there that you can touch. Mm-hmm. Super easy. If I walk in and I'm telling you, listen, I'm depressed, I got this going on, I can't pass a PT test. Right. I don't have to wait for anything. You can say, hey, I can walk you down here and we can go talk to our fitness folks, or we can go talk to our money people if you're having financial issues. So it's y'all have this very nice, neat little network. Yeah. All of y'all are kind of the, you know,
It's very cool. It's very cool.
Do you think there's because you've been doing this for a while, obviously, and you've obviously seen a fair amount of military folks. Do you see any kind of repeat offenders, and not individual themselves, but
like repeat issues?
I mean, obviously, there's got to be trends or possibly trends.
Well, I will say that as like missions have changed and deployment has changed, what we see has changed. So right now, if I look back over the past, 2 years, and I think maybe because I've been around a little bit longer, so I see a lot of soldiers that are getting ready to retire. And a lot of them are still young enough that they could go on and have a second career, but they don't know what they want to do. And there's a lot of, well, I'm like the excitement of I'm retiring out, I'm going to be done, I'm going to get my, I'm doing all this stuff. But at the same time, like their wives are like, what's he going to do? Because I don't know if I could be home with him. And I'm like, I get it. I don't think I could be home with your husband either. So it's kind of like this, so I'm talking to a lot more soldiers that are getting ready to retire, and not in a way that they have issues, like clinical issues, more about like, it's just a new chapter in their life. And they've been doing this military thing for so long. It's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And so we're just kind of talking about redefining your life at midlife, taking your skill set or seriously, some of these folks are young,
Sounds like it's time for a Corvette.
Maybe.
Right?
Yeah,
a
Corvette.
Nice boat.
A boat?
Yeah.
Corvette?
Just don't divorce your wives and go like, don't do any of that. Yeah, no, let's not have any impulsive behaviors. But I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying. I haven't come across that yet. So I see that kind of, that shift. I also see, as every couple years, leadership shifts around and there's stress involved in that. So I talk to a lot of soldiers about the not knowing what their new leadership is going to be like, or, so things like that. We have a lot more, I don't know if I'm getting older, but I guess it's just the sign of the times is our soldiers now that are coming in are millennials, and they're very different. I'm a Gen Xer, and so how I learn and how I take in information and how I do things is very different than what they do. And so just learning how to reach them and get them what they need. There's a different mentality on how quickly things should happen and what, there's a lot of expectation management going on with the military when we have these younger new soldiers coming in. But I think that's just that happens every time. That's nothing new. It's just the generations have shifted.
Cycles.
Yeah, it cycles. And then, of course, there's always going to be those incidents where we have, unfortunately, a death or suicide, and how that impacts units and how that impacts the Guard. That's not going to go away. We want to see that trend go down, but that's going to be there. But that's going to be out in the general public too. And I think within the Guard, we're such a close-knit group, like we're family. And I didn't really get that either when I started working here. I was like, I got family. I don't need any more family. But this place becomes like part of you. And so I think there's, you do start to see things a little bit differently. But I'll say from a clinical perspective too. So you're looking at the trends. You're looking at the climate. You're talking to soldiers. You're talking to, NCOs. You're talking to junior leadership. And everybody has an idea of, so you're kind of like this. You're this person who's brought in, and this is what I tell the team is, our job isn't to like fix it. It's more to be like this process observer and kind of put the pieces together as to what's going on in the system, and just be not have a side, but just work for the good of the group, and to kind of. But you're going to have those outliers that are, unhappy and, but that's life. I mean,
that's part of the bell curve.
Yeah, it is. Total, total bell curve. Yeah. So, I mean, what else am I seeing? We'll always see relationship issues. I mean, as the day is long, around Thanksgiving is when they start to pop.
Oh, yeah. Holidays.
Yeah. What else do we see? We see kids, acting out. Yeah. Not so much as when we were deploying more soldiers. Right. We were dealing with a lot of, and that makes sense because they miss their parents.
It's tough.
It's very tough. Very hard. So what else? I don't know. Are you guys noticing anything? I should probably be asking you. Like, are y'all noticing anything?
No. Everything's awesome in our world.
I'm not trying. No. I mean, like,
in
your roles here.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
I think pretty much everything that you've hit, like, obviously relationships, because we have a lot of dual military, so I think for them, they have a better understanding because they know exactly what's going on. They know the terminology and all that. Yeah. So whenever you have relationships with people who may not have grown up in the military, right. like family members and stuff, they don't know anything about it. They kind of just go crazy because they're not used to it. And so talking about it, and I mean, having you guys around to be there, especially Yellow Ribbons, because coming back from deployment, going on deployment, having them be there to listen to what you guys have to say, I know is super helpful because they don't know what they're getting themselves into, really.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, there's always a lot of stuff, and the kid thing, I can relate to that. Even just with some of the disc missions, like the hurricanes and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah,
that was a big one.
Oh,
how can we forget about that?
Yeah, I mean, my son, when he was younger, when I went through the 2015 one or whatnot, he would have been 6-ish, 7-ish. I don't know. He's roughly that age. But it freaked him out because my wife's a nurse on top of that, so she had to go into the hospital. I was in here, so he went to stay, grandma and grandpa with no parents around, and for all intents and purposes, his world around him was falling apart. Right. He's gotten better with it, but it's nice to know if I needed services beyond that. If it was something that he continued to struggle with, could have came to y'all with it. One thing I always like to ask people to come here, because y'all are, everybody we talk to are like way above technically proficient in their job, like. But no, we do. Yeah. We have some really good technical folks, and everybody usually has some experience under their belts and whatever else. But I always like to ask, because not everybody's going to immediately jump to come for a service type thing, whatever that service may be. And I always like to ask, if I'm sitting at home, type of thing, are there tips of maybe questions I can ask myself to see if I really need to talk to somebody, or is it worth it to talk to a family member first, or is that sometimes a bad idea? I mean, what's some home stuff I can do if I think I need to start looking at this?
Well, sometimes that's a great question. That's a great question, by the way. That's a really good question. And I'm thinking here, like, okay, well, there's a number of things you can do. And I think, honestly, it just depends on the soldier and how well they know themselves and how well aware they are of their thoughts, feelings, and actions. Because there's a lot of folks who, and I say this in a kind way, are in denial. Not like they mean to be in denial. They're not intentionally trying to, like, you're like, doesn't he see he's got this issue? You're like, don't you clear, because he doesn't. Like, there's denial is an actual clinical issue that a lot of soldiers are going to experience. So my tip for those people who are in denial, but people around them are really concerned, be that person that goes to that soldier and says, I'm over the past couple of weeks, days, hours, I've noticed X, Y, and Z. You're not eating, you haven't showered, you seem really low, you've lost weight. Say what it is that you're noticing and say, I'm concerned about you and your well-being. And just say it and then wait for the response. Don't bombard them with, okay, you need to call Lisa, you need to call the 800 number, you need to call the crisis line. Like, just be a human who is connecting with another human in that moment, and just point out the behaviors that you're noticing and try really hard not to judge it.
Yeah.
Because that's really important. And that's, I like to say I have my stuff, but I try really hard to not judge what somebody's going through, because that makes it worse for that person, even if they're in denial. So if that person's in denial, and they may not be aware that they're having these issues, but they're secluded at home, but yet they go to work and somebody at work can notice, or somebody at drill can notice. And I really like how we have these check-ins now at drill. So, a commander or somebody is going to notice and hopefully say something to that effect. We've gotten really good about that over the past couple years. And I mean, I don't know about everybody, but from what I hear, generally speaking, that those check-ins are going pretty well. So yeah, if that person's in denial, be that person that's kind. If they say to you, yeah, I haven't really felt like myself. I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. And you can say, well, tell me more about that. I just say, well, tell me more. Tell me more. I mean, seriously, you can just keep saying that until they have nothing more to say, because you're getting a sense of what's going on in their life. And then at that point, if you feel comfortable, then you can say, I really care about you. I'm concerned about you, but this is not my area of expertise, but I know that the behavioral health specialist can help with this. Why don't we call them together? So then you can pick up the phone and call 800-681-2558, and you can say, hey, this is Specialist Erskine. I'm sitting here with a friend, soldier. You don't have to give their name. I'm concerned about him or her, and I don't know what to do next, but I would like some guidance. We'll call you back, and we'll help you help that soldier. Most of the time, I'm going to say to you, do you think he's comfortable with talking to me on the phone?
Right.
So then I take that off of you.
Right.
But I know that takes time and that takes energy, but that's really the best way to show somebody that you're invested and that you care. So let's say you have a soldier who is very aware that they've got issues, but yet they're scared to go to somebody. Maybe they're at home and they know they've been drinking too much. They know that they've been drinking has upticked. Yeah. Because maybe their moms have said something to them, or their girlfriends are getting into a lot of fights, and they're just trying to figure out what has changed, and they're just struggling. They're drinking too much. I would say to that person, think about how much your drinking has gone up, and are you triggered to drink? Is there something more going on underneath the surface that is triggering you to pick up the alcohol as a coping skill? That's the thing I would say to them. And if that soldier right now is listening and is saying, yeah, that kind of resonates with me a little bit, then call the 800 number. Call the 800 number and leave a message, and we'll call you back. Go to whoever you're comfortable going to. It really is what it comes down to. If you're that soldier at home and you're like, that's me. Now, if you're a soldier at home and your wife is like, you've changed, you're a jerk, you're so angry. She's calling me, telling me, which happens, which is fine. That does happen, has happened over the years. Yeah. And the soldier's like, I'm not angry, it's you, Then if you're invested in, working on not being so angry, then call us as well. But if people are pointing out to you, hey, you've changed a lot recently, or you're a pretty normal guy, but all of a sudden you're not so normal, or maybe these actions are getting in the way of daily functioning or daily life, and you recognize that, then just pick up the phone and call. If you know who your behavioral health specialist is in your area, in your region, you can reach out directly to them, or you can always call 800-681-2558 and leave a message. And you honestly don't even have to tell us what's going on. You can just say, hey, this is Specialist Erskine. Can somebody call me back? I just need to talk. And that's it. Like, right. You don't have to say anything more if you don't want to. That's so good. I'm trying to think if are there other kind of scenarios you can think of?
No, I mean, I think that covers a pretty good baseline. I think you can apply the drinking and the anger to
just general life at home and changes. Anything from, stopping to do, maybe they're not doing chores around the house or maintenance and stuff like that like they used to, or
Right.
interacting with the family as much. They used to be outgoing, now they, and so I think that process kind of covers all that. I think the denial one's obviously the hardest. And,
It is the hardest.
And I've had some friends like that, and it's hard enough to do that with regular folks, and it's even harder to do it with military people because we're generally
Stubborn.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Stubborn.
that's a good word.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
We can be standoffish given the right
Oh,
opportunity.
totally. Yeah.
And so it's a little hard to
Yeah.
ease them into that conversation sometimes.
Yeah, I will say, I do want to address that one, maybe that soldier out there that's very desperate and very isolated and very lonely and is kind of at their wit's end and is thinking, I'm done, like this is it, I'm just tired of this. I would encourage that person to, if they're comfortable, to call the 800 number and talk to a counselor. If they're comfortable, walking into an emergency room at a hospital, do that. It takes a lot for a soldier to do that by themselves. But there is, there's the suicide prevention lifeline too, specifically for veterans and military members. So you can call and talk to somebody there as well. And those are probably the ones that over the years, some of them, like their wives will call and say, okay, we just took a gun out of his hand. He was at home and I walked in and I had to pull it. And I'm like, okay, we're coming over and we're going to do something. Like, and I'll, we kind of bring in like a really good safety network of trusted soldiers. And, we have, I don't want to say that's like always the case, because if she had walked into that and she called me, I'd be like, call the police, just call the police. But she was able to de-escalate the situation, and then she called me, and we kind of made a plan from there, like what would help this soldier the most. And it wasn't a quick, like, get him to the hospital, get him seen, get him his medication fixed. It takes time to really, for those cases, to really kind of resolve themselves, and the number one concern there is safety. When somebody calls you and says that, you're like, get the guns out of the house, get them away, get the ammo out, remove anything that he can use to harm himself. And I say he because most of the soldiers over the years have been he, or airmen. So, but, we don't want to lose a soldier, ever. But we get those calls too. And so you never know, like you just never know what you're going to get when you pick up your phone. Right. And you never know when you return that 800 number call, like what it's going to be. And that's why we want all of our counselors to be seasoned and well experienced and have a good idea of what military culture is. So we're very picky about who we bring on and how and they stay. Most of our counselors really enjoy working here and enjoy everything I've shared too, and I wish they were here to and I'm just going to say their names because I really want to give them a shout out. There's Jennifer Wolf, and she's in the Rock Hill area. She's phenomenal. There's Jill Corrigan. She's down in Orangeburg. And there's Ruth Ellis, and she is like the Columbia area. There is Rudy Guajardo. I hope I said his name right. He covers like Florence and some of the Low Country. We're actually looking for somebody in the Charleston area. We recently, our person resigned for reasons. So we're actually looking for a really good therapist down there. We have Teresa, and she is up in the Clemson Armory. And then we have Michelle Evans, who's in the Spartanburg upstate area. And my role around, I truly kind of cover the tag building and like the campus around here. I don't go out as much as I used to. I mean, I'll still go to Newberry. I'll still go down to like the Northeast, like some Columbia. And I have some soldiers over the years that will, like, they'll come into town for meetings, and I'll go meet with them and stuff just to kind of do, like, I call them check-ins or, like, booster sessions to kind of make sure everything's good. But, so, yeah, our team is fabulous, and I have to give Captain Alex Wright, he's the behavioral health officer. He's really great, really, really good guy and soldier, and we're just love working with them. And all of the service member and family care staff is just great, and we do all work really well together with, like, okay, so, like maybe somebody in health and wellness is talking to somebody who needs help with their PT, and they start talking to them, and they're like, I really don't know what to do with your relationship issues, but, Lisa's down the hall, so let's go find her. Right. And so I'll be talking to that soldier, and it's like, oh, so you're stressed about finances, and your job isn't paying you enough, and you need more meaningful work. Well, let's go talk to somebody in employment. So it's really like And I think soldiers like that because we really do wrap our arms around them and help them when they step up to help themselves. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
We can't help soldiers that don't want to help themselves.
Right. Okay.
You know.
And then the more you send a soldier or an airman, any military person, if they have to go from one place to the next, like outside of the building, the chances of making it to the next building is slim to none because they'll talk themselves out of it before they get there. When you got them all self-contained in one little area, you'd be like, you got no choice. We're going down here, you know? And we're pretty good with direction. We generally follow directions. So if you give us direction from here to there,
yeah, it was like finding you guys in this building. I was like, I'm going to keep going. Keep going down and I'll find them. I'm going to keep going. I found you.
Yeah, exactly.
I found it. So I'm not leaving until I get all my questions answered now that I'm here.
There you go. Anywhere. There you go. So, I mean, this has just been awesome information. Just up and down one side. Hopefully this becomes a regular thing for us.
Bring me back. Let's talk.
Definitely.
I have some great stuff I would like to talk about. Just my next one. I have so many topics, and I would like to bring some guests with me, and we could interview them, and they could share more, or you could interview them.
So for our viewers and stuff out there, if y'all want to hear more stuff and get into some specialized topics, let us know on YouTube. Leave us some comments and stuff, and obviously we have an excellent resource for it here. And we can move on and do more great things with it.
Yeah, this has been so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, it was.
Thanks for coming in.
It was good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
So I'm so glad that we had Lisa come in. She had a lot of really good information.
Yeah, it was awesome stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
definitely a lot of topics that we can have her come back in, talk about, and bring her staff and everybody from over at the Armory to come and give us some tips and resources for all of those different things that they offer.
Yeah, and for you folks out there listening and watching on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment on some topics maybe you'd like to see her come in or help bring somebody in to talk about. I think that would be great.
Well, I'm Specialist Chelsea Baker.
And I'm Specialist David Erskine.
And we'll catch you in the next episode.